Before the New World, One Piece has been giving us arcs that made anime history. But here's the thing, not all of them are as great as you might remember. Some are overrated, some are underrated, and at least one will shock you when you see where I put it. In this video, we're ranking every single pre-timeskip arc in One Piece. I've rewatched, reread, and argued about these arcs for hours to bring you the ultimate tier list. Think you know the best arcs? Drop a comment below. Let's find out if they made it to the top. Romance Dawn. Just saying those two words takes me back. This is the arc that started it all, and this job was simple. Hook us into One Piece, and seeing how it's one of the most successful manga of all time, I would say mission accomplished. This is where we meet Luffy, a kid with a crazy dream of becoming the king of the pirates, but in One Piece, strong dreams are everything. And we can't forget Zoro, the starving swordsman tied to a post who became Luffy's first ever crewmate, Tam Morgan, the first corrupt marine that we meet, hinting at One Piece's love for shades of gray. It's not the flashiest arc, but it started all, for me, easy B tier. Orange 10 is an arc so short, most people forget it even exists. But hey, they gave us a debut of the legend, the myth, the man himself, Buggy D Clown, the first double fruit user that we meet after Luffy, and proof that things are only gonna get even crazier from now on. We also get Nami's first intro to the story, and that little emotional gut punch with Cho-Cho defending the shop. It's short, sweet, surprisingly memorable. I'm throwing it in B tier. Syrup Village is an arc that isn't high on a lot of people's lists, and yeah, I'm no different here. It's an arc that you won't necessarily skip, but you aren't in a rush to rewatch it or anything. One of my favorite forgotten moments from this arc is Luffy using Shanks' iconic line about weapons not being for show. Kuro was an okay, largely forgettable villain. He's just a dude with knobs on his fingers who's supposed to be smart. The real highlight here is meeting Usopp again at the beginnings of his journey with the crew. That alone saves the arc from being complete trash, but let's be real, it's still just a C tier. Sabaody arc is goated. This arc kicks things off into a new gear, raising the stakes and expanding the world in ways we had not seen before. We get our first truly legendary character intro and backstory with Sanji, and it's the first time Oda nailed the emotional hook he was looking for, with a backstory as exquisite as one of Sanji's moves. Then there's the fire fight against the Krieg pirates, where we see Luffy get tested for the first time. And of course, the moment One Piece changed in scale entirely, the moment Mihawk showed up and shattered Zoro's confidence with a single swing. Up until this point, the Straw Hats were the big fish in a very, very small pond, and Mihawk came and took us to the ocean, easily outclassing Zoro and showing us what a top tier looks like. And the big takeaway, we get our cook with Sanji. All in all, Sabaody is a masterpiece of an arc that sets the stage for the greatness to come. Solidly in A tier. Arlong Park is the other arc early on that is known for hooking people. It's emotional, powerful, and it delivers one of the saddest backstories in all of One Piece, Nami's story, and truly made me, and a lot of us, big fans of hers. And we cannot not talk about the walk to Arlong Park, easily still one of the finest scenes in all of One Piece. Luffy giving Nami his head to save keep, come on, it gets me every single time. This is also where we see Luffy get his first bounty, and Arlong himself, ruthless. And one of the first villains who really felt menacing, who also represents discrimination. It's a theme we see explored again and again throughout the story, but it started here. Arlong Park delivers on everything, action, emotion, and stakes. It's a no-brainer. This one is obviously an A tier, right next to Baratie. Loguetown is a short arc with only a handful of chapters, but it has some legitimately great moments. Zoro betting his luck and dreaming of becoming the world's strongest swordsman against the curse of the Kisetsu blade. That old shopkeep and trusting his dream to Zoro actually goes kinda hard. This arc also introduces the Smoker, the first Logia double fruit user that we ever see. Back before we knew about hockey, Smoker really seemed OP. Hopefully nowadays, he can put some respect back on his name because it's not looking too good for him. We also get one of the most iconic Luffy scenes when Buggy almost awesome and Lee's just sitting there smiling. Pure Willa D energy. And at the time of this video, the only time in the story Dragon actually lifted up his hands and did a damn thing for once. Stopping Smoker all those years ago is still causing us to debate what his fruit is now, 20 something years later. Loguetown dropped lore, hype moments, ancestors of the Grand Line. It gets a cool little B tier. Reverse Mountain. Time to go to the Grand Line, a place that's been teased since the start of the series. Early One Piece really loves this short arcs. This one is only 2 episodes. Here we learn how the Grand Line works and about the final island, Laugh Tale, that apparently only Roger's crew has ever been to. And of course, Laboon is one of the coolest foreshadowings, a heartbreaking whale with a connection that ties all the way back to Brook. This arc also introduced Vivi, who quickly takes over the entire Alabasta Saga and becomes one of the most beloved side characters in the entire story. I give it a nice little C tier. Whiskey Peak is barely an arc, it's more like a little pit stop, but it still has its moments, I guess. For one, we learn the truth about Vivi. She's not just a random character, she's a princess with a massive target on her back. This is also where Baroque were introduced and her leader Crocodile, the third warlord that we hear about. Of course, the real highlight for me is this hilarious fight between Zoro and Luffy. Whiskey Peak isn't the most memorable arc. It does its job for pushing the story forward. For that, I'll give it a C tier. Not bad, but not great. Little Garden is an arc that's still unusually relevant still to this day. For the first time, we're introduced to the Giants from Elbaf, a race that has become a huge focus in current storyline. Dory and Bragi, the two giants we met way back then, became a huge inspiration for Usopp, planting the seeds of his dream to one day become a brave warrior to sea. Fast forward to now, and they just reappear in the anime after all this time. We also get this hilarious moment of realization for Usopp and Nami that they're the weak ones. Robin also makes a memorable first appearance. Again, another C. Drum Island is a smooth little solid arc, dragged down by probably the worst arc villain. But I can't lie, his goofy ass is kind of funny as hell too, with that silly ass ability. That said, this arc brings a lot more to the table than just his villain. Dr. Kureha drops crazy lore bombs with the Will It D, Aaron Rodgers' real name. Set up a mystery that we're still waiting to find out. And speaking of first, this arc also introduces us to the third type of devil fruits with Zoans, as we see with Tony and Dalton transform. Most importantly, our crew gets his doctor / emergency food supply, and we get one of the greatest backstories ever put to pen with Herluke. His bond with Tony is unforgettable and solidifies his arc as one of the most touching in the entire series, which is why it's going to A tier. Alright, so we finally made it to the first big arc, Alabasta, the arc we've been building up to for so long now, and it was definitely worth the wait. It's by far the longest arc that we've seen yet, and it's filled with some of the best moments One Piece has ever had. We finally square up against the full might of Baroque works, with the obvious standouts being Bon Clay, who goes on to be one of the realest bros of all time. Mr. One, who took Zoro to a whole new level with Cutting Through Steel, and of course, none other than the king of drip himself, Crocodile, who's still to this day one of the greatest villains we've ever had, and is still poised to have a big role in the final saga. And while Luffy is busy whooping Crocodile, Robin sneaks her way into the crew and our hearts. We definitely need her because we got so much lore dropped on us this arc, from the poneglyphs to the ancient weapons. My only gripe with this arc is that the arc kicked off one of my biggest pet peeves in One Piece. Pell is one of the first of a few characters that honestly should be dead. Pell's sacrifice was beautiful, but it doesn't hit the same knowing that he survived. Even with that, it's still in my GOAT tier. Giant might be a short arc, but it really packs a punch. Luffy and Blackbeard cross paths for the first time in a monumental moment, and during this meeting, Blackbeard delivers an unparalleled monologue about dreams, and of course, who could forget Luffy's punch to Bellamy's face? It's one of the most satisfying hits in the entire series. For me, nice little A tier arc. Skypiea is one of the most polarizing arcs in One Piece. Some people love it, some people hate it. I myself am a big fan of this arc. This arc feels like classic One Piece at its best. Adventure, great comedy, and lots of lore. The setting alone is insane. An entire civilization in the sky, hidden from the rest of the world with its own culture and history, with one of the premier villains in Eneru, his god complex, combined with hockey and a very busted fruit, made him super overpowered at the time. Until he met his natural enemy Luffy, climaxing in one of the wildest fights One Piece has to offer. Love it or hate it, you can't deny that Skypiea is pure One Piece fun. For me, it's definitely an A tier arc. Long Ling Land, yeah, everyone knows it's not the best arc. That being said, it's not that bad. Afro Luffy was cool and pretty funny, let's be real. It actually does have one really tough moment without Kiji popping up. I don't really like it that much. You probably don't like it that much either, so yeah, let's throw in a D. Water 7, what can I say about Water 7? We all know that it's great. This is where the Straw Hats face their first real test as a group, and it's pretty intense. Robin mysteriously disappears and leaving them to take the fall for Ice Pop's assassination attempt. Usopp's insecurities boiling over until he nearly leaves the crew, After his heartbreaking fight against Luffy over the Going Merry, it also introduces us to Frankie, the shipwright we desperately needed. From his over-the-top personality to his tragic backstory, Frankie instantly won me over. He's weird, he's loud, but he's got a heart of cola. Water 7 isn't just a great arc, it's a major test of the bonds the crew are working on building. It's a perfect setup for the shared greatness of Enies Lobby. Easy GOAT tier, no question. Enies Lobby is One Piece at its absolute peak. At the heart of this arc is Robin's story, so we gotta start there. We see virtually her entire life play out before our eyes, watching her transform from a curious, brilliant little girl into a fugitive demonized by the world government, all because she dared to seek the forbidden truth. She lost everything, her home, her mother, and her ability to trust anyone, until she met the Straw Hats who finally got her to realize that she wants to live. That moment when Luffy tells Soge King to burn down the flag and the Straw Hats declare war on the entire world for her, might just be the most unsurpassed scene in One Piece. The CP9 fights to protect her are legendary. From Zoro's Ashura to Sanji's Diable Janbei to Luffy's Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd, it's one jaw-dropping fight after another. And let's not forget the emotional farewell to the Going Merry, a death that to this day still hits as hard as any character in the series. Like I said, this is peak One Piece, easiest GOAT tier of my life. Post Enies Lobby, we get a chill little cooldown arc for our Straw Hats, but not for us. Despite being a short one, a lot happens. Robin and Usopp officially rejoin the crew, Garps comes in and steals the show, and we learn that not only is he Luffy's grandfather, but Luffy's father is none other than Monkey D. Dragon, the most wanted man in the entire world. I'm a sucker for lore piece, so this is right up my alley, and there's a lot of lore. Shanks and Whitebeard confront each other, and we learn exactly how dangerous Blackbeard really is, just as Ace finally tracks down Teach, leading to their fateful showdown that sets the stage for the war to come. A really good arc that I'm gonna throw at Big. Thriller Bark is another one of those arcs that catch a lot of slack, and honestly, it's tough coming right off the heels of Enies Lobby, the best arc in the series. While it has its moments, this is the first time I feel like the plot started to drag, and I couldn't bring myself to care about Moria like at all. The fights with Oars was a fun showcase for the crew, and Brook's introduction brought back a fresh dynamic to the crew. His backstory is easily one of the most heartbreaking in the series, and his dream of reuniting with Laboon tells everything back to the beginning beautifully. What truly saves the arc is his ending, Zoro's greatest moment. His nothing happened sacrifice that elevates the arc almost single-handedly. For his highs and lows, Thriller Bark lands squarely in the C tier for me. What do you think? Am I being too harsh, or does the ending redeem it? Sabaody is an amazing arc that brilliantly kicks off the grandest One Piece saga so far. The story is impacted in so many ways. The intro of the world generation who are all out here changing the world to this day. Then we see just how deep the corruption of the world government runs. We meet the Celestial Dragons, and it leads to one of the greatest punches in anime history when Luffy decks St. Charles. We finally get a true taste of an Admiral's power when Kizaru shows up and wreaks absolute havoc. And we even meet Roger's right-hand man, Rayleigh, who drops major lore bombs about the Pirate King. And then comes the heartbreaking crew breakup, which was hard to watch. This is exactly what they needed to prepare for the new world. Easy A tier. Amazon Lily is a fun, unique little arc. Let's us see Luffy completely on his own, which is always means trouble. This arc introduces us to Boa Hancock, one of the most interesting warlords and a real MVP of this entire saga, whose backstory gives even more fuel to feed our hate towards the Celestial Dragons. On a bigger note, this is where the story takes a major left turn. Luffy learns about Ace's execution and realizes his adventure has to be put on hold to save his brother. The swerve sets the stage for one of the most emotional action-packed sagas in the entire series. It's a solid B tier arc in my book. Impel Down is another superb setup arc that leads into an absolutely insane arc. The prison breakout feels like a chaotic trip down memory lane, bringing back old foes like Buggy, Crocodile, and Bond Clay, who now forced to team up with Luffy to survive a much larger enemy, the prison itself. At the time, we didn't know it yet. We also met a future crewmate as well in Jinbei. On the flip side, Luffy's antics strengthened his biggest rival to the throne as Blackbeard was able to gather some bad boys down to Impel Down, who are definitely going to be right there to help him shape the final saga. This is also where the cult of Buggy starts that propels them all the way to the top of the world. Watching Buggy fall upwards will never get old. Nothing to complain about here, another A tier. Marineford is, without a doubt, one of the most iconic arcs in One Piece, sitting alongside Enies Lobby as an absolute no-brainer for GOAT status. Honestly, what doesn't this arc have? High stake fights, painful emotional moments. It's the war arc, not just in One Piece, but arguably in all the anime. Luffy is completely out of his weight class here, and that's the entire point. We see just how far guys have to go to be the best of the best. The deaths of Whitebeard and Ace are world-changing events, especially after years of One Piece conditioning us to not trust death. Whitebeard's final stand is second to none, and Ace's death? It's the straw that broke Luffy's back and draw Luffy to his lowest point and forces him to grow to the captain we have now. But it's not just about the battles and the heartbreak. Marineford marks the end of the first era, leaving a vacuum at the top just in time for the worst generation to swoop in. Marineford is undeniable go-to arc, delivering in every way possible. The post-war arc is in kind of an odd spot. It's a cooldown after the chaos of Marineford, but it's anything but forgettable. It's here that we dive into the backstory of Ace, Luffy, and Sabo. And while I've heard some fans say that they didn't care about Ace until this, after his death, this arc adds layer to his character that make his sacrifice hit way harder. We get a deep look at Luffy's roots, his upbringing, and the bonds that made him into the man we know and love today. The dynamic between Ace, Luffy, and Sabo as kids is one of my favorites, showing their shared dreams and their struggles to carve out a place in the world they did not belong in. Dadan, the tough love mother figure, is a surprising standoff for me. It's a deeply emotional close to the pre-Timeskip era and a very fitting send-off to everything One Piece had built up to this point. For me, as someone who has Ace in their favorite character, this arc is an A tier all the way. And now that you know what the best pre-Timeskip arcs in One Piece are, if you're curious and want to find out who has the strongest crews, click on this video right here to find out.